Hey, what's up, Robbie? You know what they say? The best things in life are free. And I'd really like to give away a 50K account.
Oh man, I would love to give away a 50K account, but I don't know if these guys really want it or not. What do you think?
I don't know. If you want to be entered into winning the giveaway, you got to be subscribed. So hit that subscribe button right now. And welcome
Yeah,
back to another episode of the Coast to Coast Traders Podcast. I'm Joe.
and I'm Robbie.
What's up, Robbie? How are you doing?
I'm good, but just quickly on that giveaway, we need 500 subs, guys.
That's right.
500 subs. We're close. We're close.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Help us help you.
Yeah, it'd be sick if we got there, man. To be honest, like this is episode 44, so that's 44 weeks of doing this podcast, which has been a lot of fun. And I don't know. I didn't really have much for expectations. So if we hit 500 subs before we make it to a year, I feel like that's pretty good.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So on the agenda today, we're talking about the Burry guy and the Buffett guy.
that's right. That's right. Mr. Buffett. So, and Mr. Burry.
Mhm.
Let's start with Mr. Burry, huh? Because I think that we had some misinformation last week when we spoke about his potential $900 million put position. And
Yep.
I think there was a few too many zeros in that, and that got cleared up this week. So we want to clear that up. He has a $9 million put position, not nine
Yeah.
hundred million.
So Joe, do you think that the news reporters were deliberately sensationalizing that because like normal consumers maybe don't understand options as much, so they just multiplied it by 100 because of the numbers bigger?
I think so. I think that's probably exactly what happened. To be honest, I think that people probably just didn't understand, because of the like every put contract or every call contract is worth, 100 shares. So it's everything's times
Yeah.
100. They just multiply it by 100. No big deal.
Yeah. I mean, if I was writing a course, which I'd thought about in my earlier days, and the clickbait title was "How I Traded." Hundreds of thousands of dollars in Microsoft shares for $50 or, whatever, something like
Mhm.
that. Cause it's like zero DTE or whatever.
Right.
But, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Because
900 million sounds a lot juicier than 9 million.
right. And so like the notional value of his put contracts is around 5 million shares, which is about $912 million or so. So,
Mhm.
because he had $9.2 million in put contracts, I think they said roughly like $184 a contract, or if you trade options, that's 1.84. That's his purchase
Yeah,
price. So,
buck 80.
you know, is it not even though, like, not that this is financial advice, is it not even though just a little bit tempting to buy one? Just to buy one, to have that like constant exposure of like, what's it at? What's that? What's that?
Yeah, I mean, sure, but I mean, at the same time, you could just open up the paper trader and just go back to that and add it to
Yeah.
the account and just to see what it's like, or just look up the options chart just to keep checking periodically.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to add it to my watch list. Look up that one contract, add it to the watch list. And we'll have to revisit this because
Yeah.
it's they expire in January of 2027. So we have plenty of time to revisit this in future episodes. So uh
Yeah.
but he did open up that position and now he's closing up shop, right? Pretty much a pretty big shocker.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I didn't know this, but I guess back in after the big financial crisis, he had actually done a similar thing but I think this was after the trade played out, if I'm not mistaken, where he closed what was then Scion uh, Asset Management,
Yep.
and now it's Scion Capital.
Hmm.
So who's to say if this is just, I mean, he can't, not to say that he maybe can't's the right, not the right word, but the burden of handling other people's money, and then the pressures that come when things are maybe not looking so great for that position,
Hmm.
and people are knocking on that door, not necessarily margin calling, but hey, I kind of want my money back, or I want to invest in something else. I can only imagine, it's bad enough when we're trading for ourselves and we're seeing something going against us, and then imagine hundreds or thousands of people screaming in your ear, calling, emailing, or whatever.
No way,
It's a
dude.
tough one.
No way. I couldn't
Yeah.
I couldn't possibly imagine it. I feel like I would be so stressed. And I can't imagine that level of stress he had because he was like, what, like 2.5 years early on that 2008 bubble actually popping, So the drawdown
Yeah.
was around 20%. The dude was getting death threats, investor threats, marriage strain, like the whole 9 yards.
Hmm.
And I don't know that The Big Short really does a good enough job of depicting, like the movie The Big Short doesn't do a good enough job of depicting like
Right.
the amount of stress he probably endured during that time frame just to walk away like, I mean, I don't want to say just like, not that $100 million is just 100 million, but like, you know, they just kind of made it out to
Right.
be like, oh, he won money and that's it. Life is good now.
Yeah, that's not glamorous enough to make it in the movie, unfortunately.
Mm-mm. No.
But so, is he just too early again? Because it's funny how you mentioned that after like this revelation came out, the letter coming out and stuff, the positions would have been working potentially near his favor. Because if we go back to the original entry,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if we know exactly when he got in,
Mm-hmm.
but I was hearing some places say it could have been August, some maybe September.
Okay. So he's down
So
fat.
if that's the case, yeah, he's down fat, but given the recent correction that we were just talking about,
Hmm?
maybe he would have been close to break even. But with, you know, I mean, they're so far out in expiration. It's hard to wonder. Like we would definitely have to look them up to kind of see what kind of crush there might have been on an IV. But it wouldn't have been bad as it wouldn't be nearly as bad if they were maybe just a few months out.
Yeah.
Or I mean, it'd be awful if they're a few months out.
Interesting though. So like he these are ones expire in January of 2027, and I'm curious why he went to that one because he could go out as far as January 2028, and I wonder if that's a typo because that doesn't make sense. Like, why wouldn't he just go the full time? So I'm gonna look at these like $50 puts if it'll even show them to me. It won't.
Yeah. Well,
So they
while you're
must
doing
be they
that,
must be the 20s, dude. Here it is. I got it actually already. So
oh, okay.
if they are in fact because the 2028 January puts, there is no contract for $50. So for at least it's not showing up on Thinkorswim, right? Because I don't have it on my computer, so I'm looking at it mobile. If we go to if I go to January 27, the January 2027, the $50 puts do exist. You can actually buy all the way down to $20 puts, and
Okay.
those puts are currently at $2.70 a share. So he's up 50% on his position already.
Okay.
And the maximum payoff would be about a 26x return or $240 million.
Yeah. That's a lot.
That is crazy.
But, it's just here's the thing. So, he posted on X actually recently, and he hasn't been known for posting on X very much.
Okay.
But he did recently. He was posting like some pictures of Christian Bale from The Big Short, kind of
Hmm.
like lying on his office floor, all papers sprawled out and stuff. Some people, and this was before posting the letter about his firm closing. But in one of his posts, he was talking about some of the numbers, and one thing that's interesting is that the chips, like the graphics cards and stuff, have recently been known to depreciate within about 3 years, and that there's a shift recently where now people are putting on the books for a 10-year depreciation.
Okay.
And so that that in his mind is like, okay, you guys are trying to fudge with the numbers to make the outlook look better than it currently is. But then there's other companies reporting that, oh, look, we have a data center lease agreement that just renewed on these same 3-year-old chips, and we renewed that lease at the same price as day one. And
Gotcha.
so there's a couple of ways of thinking about that. And so the first one is that, well, supply and demand on chips is still really short, and or capacity in data centers is really low, so therefore people will take what you can get because the technology still works decently well.
Hmm.
Um, and then and the other is that, well, maybe the depreciation or the um the viability of these chips is lasting longer than they used to because we've made such great improvements. And therefore, like the curve of diminishing returns or gains, I guess you might say, we just haven't made the next evolution in technology to like bump it up even greater. So, what do you think about that?
Man, I don't know, dude. I feel like it seems fishy.
Hmm.
I feel like I lean towards the side of like something seems fishy here with just the way they're trying to say that these things depreciate, but like
Hmm.
it's not it seems like a funny accounting trick. I guess is what I should say, but that doesn't necessarily
Yeah.
mean that it's wrong. However, there were some funny accounting tricks at Enron, and
Right.
uh,
Exactly.
so that's why I'm like, But you bring up the good point though, right? It's like they're still viable, right? Even if they are
Right.
obsolete, and technically speaking, aren't most things obsolete faster than 3 years? Anyways, like
Yeah. Yeah. For technology, probably. I mean,
yeah,
because there's new stuff coming out literally every year. It's just a revision versus like a major cycle. Like Intel, on their chips, they have what was called a tick-tock cycle. And tick is like the new processing node, and then the talk is like the revision, the refinement of that node. And so this could be the same for, I mean, in AMD and NVIDIA don't necessarily use a tick tock, but there are definitely new technology processes, and then there are revision cycles for improvements.
bro. Are you telling me that these companies are using TikTok, dude? Is that what you're telling? Is that what you're telling me, dude? They doing little dance
Short
videos?
TikTok.
Dude, the little like the engineers are in the background like doing these dance moves like, yes, new chip time. And then they that's it. 60 second.
Exactly,
Oh,
dude.
great.
Exactly.
Great. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Really
Yep.
quick, really quick. I do just want to do a quick like kind of plug here to use the trade day discount code coast to coast, right? So you'll get the best discount code they have available, which is currently I think 30% off. I personally trade the intraday trailing drawdown ones, which I know makes it a little bit tougher. So you just got
Hmm.
it's one more thing to manage until you get over the buffer. However, it's 5 days to pass anyways, so you have no reason to go full pedal to the metal on the gas pedal. Just make on a 50K account. That's what I trade. Make no more than 900 a day. It's fairly simple, fairly reasonable. And the thing is, there's no activation fee, so you're all in
Right.
on this account for $69. And why I think this is great is the equivalent at TPT at Take Profit Trader is $102 with their best deal, right? But you after it's still what 5 days to pass.
Yep.
So same passing time window and all that. However, when you get to the funded stage, it goes to an intraday trailing drawdown anyways. So
Right.
you're paying extra money to just have a little bit of an easier time to pass the evaluation, which is not what counts.
Hmm.
You want to get the payout. So
Right.
I like Trade Day. Use our code, help support us in the channel, and we appreciate it.
But of course, if you like the end of the trailing drawdown, you could pay a little bit more for that, and you'll get that both on the eval and on the funded account.
Bingo. Thank you. That's a great
Yep.
point. That's a great point. I've never done that, but that is a great point. And I think the price then only goes to be a hair above TPT, which again, you're paying for something better. So if you pay a
Yeah.
little bit more than TPT, you now have end of day drawdown on the funded.
Right. And of course, it's still the same platform we love, Trade of Eight. You still get day one payouts, so
But yeah,
it's all good stuff.
all good. All good.
So going back to funny accounting though, Joe, really
Mm-hmm.
quick. Meta, there's there's they have they got some lending going on with a special entity that is designed to like just borrow money, but not put it on Meta's books.
Really.
That sounds mad fishy to me. So like you know how SPACs
Yeah.
in stock trading, there's SPACs where you have some random entity doing business,
Mm-hmm.
and they're gonna IPO through this like this new company, like for instance, True Social. Well, what was that? I didn't even remember what this fact was called. But anyway,
It's gonna kill me.
there's a company that wants to go public, but they don't want to necessarily do it through the traditional ways.
Yes.
So they use a special purpose acquisition company that's listed on the market. People can trade it. They usually start at about $10, and then once people get wind of whatever this company is, that's when things go to the moon.
Okay.
So that's interesting. Like we know about that, but so Meta is borrowing money for data center stuff and AI, and if these loans were on their books as a liability, that would make their earnings look not so good.
Right.
But if these liabilities are through a different company, then it's not reported on their books. And that's shady, dude.
It sounds like a really good way to shield a parent company from the potential risk of AI not booming, because there's so
Yeah.
much money being invested in AI, which is not AI, at least not yet. It's large
Yeah.
language learning models, right? And it's very expensive. And when we say expensive, is that the statistic is that it takes 10 times the energy to do an AI search on ChatGPT than it
Mhm.
does to just use Google, right? So, and
Yeah.
and like you brought up there's some remedial searches being done. I know I use Grok for that all the time. Like I will not go to Google for most things anymore. I will go to Grok and just type it in. So, what are your thoughts on that part?
Yeah, it's similar, and the reason is because search on Bing and Google is just absolutely disgusting these days. Like, I run a small business, and so I have to do marketing through the search engines. And the days of organic search results popping up in like the results,
Hmm.
I mean, it still happens, but the amount of results that are search results that are organic versus the advertising is it's so minuscule. And like if you open up a page on Google, for example, there'll be ads plastered on the top, and sometimes there's literally only one or two organic search results before you see more sponsored advertisements at the bottom, and then you have to click next to go to the next page. And it's the same on Bing too.
Yeah.
So if you're searching for something really basic, you don't want to see these stupid ads come up that are irrelevant to your search. And that's also why Google and Bing also have AI these large language models sort of baked into their searches. So when you do more of a question style answer, they can bring that up rather than you having to search. But yeah, that's why a lot of people use these services for just really for simple searches. And ideally, these guys don't want you asking, oh, what's the temperature, what's the boiling point of something,
Right.
and then spending all these GPU cycles on something that's so unimportant that you could have just literally Googled the search for and probably got that pretty quickly. But it's convenience, and
Dude,
we're paying for it in data center costs.
how long until one of these language learning models, whatever, just spit out you a simple answer like read a book? like you know
I
what?
don't know, man.
I would honestly, like, if I was a programmer, April Fools on Grok would be wild. Like,
Oh, for real.
just like, dude, you don't know what temperature water freezes at? Like, you need to go back to elementary school, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because some of the searches are pretty
Well,
basic. Oh,
mhm.
dude, I gotta tell you something hysterical. Hysterical. So
Okay,
my
lay down.
my wife works at a spa and she's the
Mhm.
manager there. And they hired a new person to train. And this girl's, I don't know, 18, 19, maybe 20 years old. She cannot be older than that. Like small
Yeah.
small world. Once upon a time I actually worked with her father like over a decade ago.
Okay.
Anyways, they were talking to this girl about doing some math, and they have a regular calculator, like an actual calculator you can hold. It just calculates. It's not like part of a phone or anything. And they
Okay.
were talking about the number 1200, and the girl actually said, "How do I put the comma in?"
Oh my gosh.
Dude, for
This is
real.
awful.
For real. That was the first thing. And the second red flag was this girl asked how to spell pure joy. Purejoy. Pure joy. How do I spell that? And then
Oh my
and
gosh.
then it was like two words, pure joy, Purejoy. And then after she
Mhm.
was like, Pur what? Like Dude, she needed help to finish spelling 7 letters. And I was just like, oh God, like, this is it. This is it right here. And this girl graduated high school.
Okay, I wasn't gonna bring this up because this wasn't like part of our thing, but since you brought that up, I feel like I'm compelled to.
Yeah.
So the president is kind of waffling on H-1B1s. Like when he was first running, he was like, "I use them because they're an advantage for me, but they're not they're good for the business, but they're not good for employees."
Right.
And recently, he's been catching flack because on an interview, um, he was saying that we need to bring him in because we don't have the people.
Yes.
And maybe, just maybe, if people were going to college for actual useful degrees,
Yeah, bro.
that then we wouldn't have situations like this where this person literally doesn't know how to use a stinking calculator.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like just some of the most basic stuff. Like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so,
Dude.
I don't know. Like it's like people are being replaced with AI, but then they're also being replaced with H-1B1s, and it's like,
Yes.
but those H-1B1s are often entry level positions, and well, like, dude, there's plenty of people that have just been laid off in AI that can easily qualify for entry level positions and much greater, or college people that can get those as well. I don't think we need the people to bring them in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what pissed me off, Joe, is like, what do you mean we don't have the people? This is America, man. We created the Silicon Valley. We created Microsoft. We created Apple. We created Google. We created Amazon. Who else in the world created companies that rival these? Nobody.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
that bothered me.
Yeah, dude, it's really funny. And so, shiny object syndrome, credit to you first, because he sent me a DM. I want to say it was yesterday, the day before, and he sent me that article that you just talked about like Trump saying we don't have
Mhm.
the people and the H1 visa thing, and
Yeah.
he literally put, you know what I'm gonna say about this, dot dot dot, and then he put the taco emoji for Trump always chickens out, right? And I just had to laugh because I mean, Shiny and I, we talked about that a while ago about the visas
Mhm.
thing. So it's kind of funny that it came up again. But yeah, it's deeply concerning. I mean, we're kind of off a little bit on a tangent and how this kind of plays into how people are using AI. But many things that I see, and I've been hiring a lot of young people for the last 10 years, and it is like perpetually getting worse. They actually talk about in training classes now I think they call it the Gen Z stare, where people are just like give you like this blank stare, like they are TikToked out and they are overloaded trying to process the basic thing you just sent to them. And it's like I
Mhm.
don't think that most people now can exist like and can function without direction or being able to just look something up on their phone. Crazy.
Yeah, that is pretty sad.
Yeah,
Well, what do you say we switch it up to the old legend, Mr. Buffett?
for sure. Yeah. Yeah. So he's calling it quits at 95.
You know what, man? At 95, he still is very, very like sharp.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You don't see a lot of people in their later years that are still extremely articulate,
Hmm.
that, you can have a full-on conversation with. They're not super slow in the way they
Yep.
talk. He's got a sharp mind, and that dude, is like, that's one of the best things about people that have an active mind and that actively pursue new forms of education, new forms of like research. Their mind's always working.
Hmm.
And I really feel like if you don't use it, you're gonna lose it. Like that whole phrase that people say,
Yeah.
and I think that applies to your mind more so than other things.
What about my biceps?
I mean, yeah, you're gonna lose those regardless because of
Damn
this.
it.
When we get older, sorry, Joe. Unless you want to keep your biceps in your 90s, bro, you're gonna have to get some implants.
Damn it, bro! I've been working hard on those things for like over a decade. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, but
he's had a crazy run,
it
man.
doesn't come as a surprise. It doesn't come as a surprise though, because you mentioned, he announced his retirement basically last year,
Hmm.
but his letter was just basically saying this is the last time that I'm going to be doing the letter for the company, and
Hmm.
what's next for Berkshire.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy because they I think they started out technically when he bought them, he bought them, they were like a textile mill, and then he just kept the name as it transitioned into an investing firm, you know? He stuck with that name
Yeah.
and he's had a crazy run over his first investment, was at 11 years old, I think is what's reported. And he learned, I guess I read something like he learned a valuable lesson on patience as he bought something for like $38 or something. It sold it at 42 and it went to equivalent of like 200 or something like that. So, oops.
Do you know what that was? What that thing was? Because I
Uh,
know because I looked up Grok just to get some fun facts to see if there was some things that I could pull up that I didn't know about, and I found some, but I did have to do some fact checking. Because for instance, there was one. It's like, oh, Warren Buffett sold a ukulele lesson for $1.5 million for charity, and I couldn't find any reference. I mean, I could find that he actually did. I didn't know he was a ukulele player, but I couldn't find any reference to that specific like lesson. But he played with John Bon Jovi for a charity. That's pretty cool.
that's pretty sick, dude. Yeah, that's pretty sick. I didn't realize he did it for $1 million, but it says it was City's service preferred for $38 a share, and he spent nearly all of his savings. And this says
Wow.
it was in 1942. So, like,
Hmm.
here's the thing: how does an 11-year-old in 1942 have $115?
Let alone buy stocks.
Yeah, I mean, hey, man.
This
Hey, after the Great
is the,
Depression,
the glory years.
after the Great Depression and the stock market crash, they were still lawless back then. They were like, "Hey, kid, give me your money."
Yeah. Do you
uh,
got any other fun facts about Buffett?
well, apparently, it. Oh, whoa! This thing is. Stop talking, Grok. Damn. My phone just started talking. So this says he drinks a lot of cherry Coke. I thought he drank the regular Coke, but either way, I'm on my way to being a Warren Buffett because this is what I think. I've got a shot at this because he says he drinks about 5 Cokes a day, and between Diet Coke
Yeah.
and my one regular Coke now, when I work out, that's a story for another time. Uh, I'm drinking like probably 3 or 4 cans a day, so I just got to up my game a little bit.
Yeah. Now, so do you know how he came about to start drinking Coke?
Tell me it's because it
So
used to have cocaine in it.
he was actually a Pepsi fan.
Really?
Okay. Yeah, and then Coke sent him a cherry Coke sample of some kind, and he freaking loved it,
No way.
and he switched. He switched
No way.
for real, dude.
I saw that his Coca-Cola holding is still like KO, the stock. It's still one of the biggest holdings he's got. In fact, like I'm pulling it up right now because I kept it on my phone. So in terms
Yeah,
of total shares, like total value of the shares, he's got 400 million shares of Coca-Cola. 400 million. Bro.
there's some sweet syrup dividends
S-
coming in.
Sweet syrup dividends, bro. Sweet cherry Coke dividends, man. And
You want to talk about drip? He's got it.
yo, he's dripping on that, dude. So it only, I mean, let's just say only, it equates to about 10% of his portfolio. Like the dude's got 10% of his money invested in Coca-Cola. I got to step it up, dude. I got to step it up because my Coca-Cola, I've been getting the drip investments too, and it's all right. Not bad.
Yeah, I'm on board. Personally, I'll say I'm a Pepsi fan.
Oh,
I
come
own
on.
shares. I own shares in Pepsi and Coke, but I'm more of a Pepsi fan. Actually, RC Cola than Pepsi, but RC Cola isn't as easy to get around here.
Dude, see,
Um,
this
but
is like East Coast,
I'll
West
take both.
Coast. This is like the East Coast, West Coast feud right here, dude. What's next? You gonna tell me you don't like Biggie and you like Tupac better?
Of course.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Yeah.
Yeah, but he also appeared in a Simpsons episode, a little cameo. I think it was titled "Beloved Billionaires."
Okay.
And and this is something that I knew from a long time ago because I used to be like a huge like Microsoft fanboy in general.
Yep.
But he was really great friends with Bill Gates, well, is.
Yep.
And before Bill Gates retired from Microsoft and went heavy on philanthropy, Gates was pretty much the poking prod, suggesting that Buffett give away most of his wealth.
Okay.
And they played bridge together and won it pretty often. But one interesting thing is that although they are and were close friends for such a long time, Berkshire never invested in Microsoft. And somebody asked him, why that was,
Hmm.
despite their friendship and stuff, and he just really said, "It's just because I don't understand the business," which I find to be really interesting because I would imagine that at all of his offices they're running computers most likely with Microsoft Windows, and probably a high probability that they're probably using Office software as well.
Yeah,
And so it's just like, what's not to understand, I guess.
that's it's pretty incredible because like even just
Hmm.
looking at his list of businesses that he owns now, he owns some Apple, he still does not own some Microsoft, and he increased his Google holding. Um, but I mean, he owns like some of these I don't necessarily understand or even agree with, like SiriusXM. Why do you have 124 million
Yeah,
shares of
really.
SiriusXM? Who, like,
Hmm.
if you're listening to this, who's listening to SiriusXM? Because it's like everybody.
And does anybody actually buy that subscription service, like outside of getting it with the car for the first 6 months or something?
No way, dude. There's,
That's how I first got it. When back in 11 when I got my car,
I,
it came with like a year of Sirius XM. And I think I renewed it once because I was going to cancel it. And they're like, okay, we'll give you 50% off. And then after that, you know, the discount, I was like, I really don't need this."
that's how I feel, and I don't understand it. I would much rather listen
Hmm.
to even Spotify with ads than
Yeah.
SiriusXM. So I don't.
Hmm.
That's something that like I read it. I read your investments. I understand the product, for what it is, and maybe I don't understand enough about the back end of the finances of that company, but I don't understand why there's such a big investment in that product. And yet, no, like you said, surely your offices are running on Microsoft, and maybe they're not. Maybe they're running on Apple products, but mm,
Doubt it.
yeah, especially not if Bill Gates is your buddy. Like, so
Hmm.
what's going on there? I don't know. And
Yeah.
one piece of advice that I was given about Microsoft a long time ago, and again, not financial advice by any means for you all, but what was given to me was Microsoft is very, very unlikely to go under anytime soon because they have a lot of government security contracts, right? So they're doing a lot
Yeah.
with the government and the military, and they receive a lot of profits from that. So it's like, are you gonna bet
Yeah.
against the government?
Hmm. But it's interesting because they did. Did you mention that he cut some Apple recently?
I didn't, but yeah, he did. He got more Apple because he cut some a couple years ago, and he cut more again.
Yeah. So they reduced Apple by 14%, and then they went bigger on Google.
And of course, he still owns 238 million shares of Apple,
Yeah.
though. So
Yeah. So it's still a pretty big chunk.
yeah, even reducing it 15% left him with a lot. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, very interesting, very interesting. So what else we got? Let's see some funny things about Mr. Buffett. So
That's pretty much all I got. You got some more?
I got one that he once won a $1 million bet against the hedge funds. So in 2008, he wagered that a simple S&P 500 index fund would beat a basket of the hedge funds over the next 10 years. In 2017, 10 years, so at the end of the 10th year, the S&P index returned 125% and the funds only returned 36%. So
Nice.
like my key takeaway from that is, why would I ever give my money to a hedge fund?
Yeah. But it's. I mean, I want to say yes,
Hmm.
but also right now
Yes, I know what you're gonna say.
um
Just
because
say it.
Nvidia is like 8% of the S&P 500 right now. It's not diversified anymore, dude. It's not.
No.
And that's what makes it really hard.
Yeah, so what you're saying ties really well into like the Michael Burry closing up shop thing. How funny is it that Michael Burry announces that he's closing up shop, and it's like the market says like a kind farewell to him, and we dump like massive for 2 days.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty funny.
which was largely led by Nvidia falling off. You know, Nvidia had a gap down red day, I think another gap down red day. Um, and that's a driving factor behind it. So you're right. Like right now, at this point in time, I don't know that I
Hmm.
necessarily agree with buying into the S&P 500 as a fund because it isn't as diversified as it wants. Sadly.
Yeah, and I wonder because when we talked about gold and people were lining up in Australia,
Hmm.
I just saw a post that same exact like row where people were lining up to buy gold, completely empty.
Hmm.
And so I wonder if the market or retail is looking at this kind of potential pullback as a precursor to a crash, and the euphoria has kind of died down because it's not making new highs anymore. And so it's so weird, the psychology of when, oh, everything's looking so good, all new time highs, buy, 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 buy.
Hmm.
But when it comes back down, it's crickets, you know?
That's true. And we are in extreme fear,
Yeah.
but like even with gold coming back down, it's not like it's in a terrible spot, like on the higher time frame charts.
Yeah, I agree for sure. Yeah. Now is a better time to buy than when we were last talking about it, that's for
Right. The
sure.
tippy top. The tippy top.
Yeah, the tippy top. Hmm.
So last thing, speaking of like you wanted to bring this up. So about Elf, right? You want to talk about Elf makeup?
Oh yeah, so we had an episode about this. Joe called a really excellent trade on Elf. And we brought this up because when times are tough, consumers will look for uh, lower cost items,
Hmm.
for to shift in their spending. And Elf had a really good run. It's a women's consumers. Well, I don't, maybe they sell men's products, some like colognes and stuff, but primarily I think it's like makeup and stuff. But they are getting beat to hell right now, and they're getting really close to their lows. And I just kind of wonder if this could be one of those precursors. If we start to see a correction in this Elf company where they start to maybe put in a low, then like a reversal, something like that,
Yeah.
that maybe this could signal a shift in consumer sentiment, and that maybe uh, tougher times are coming because they'll consumers will be seeking some more value oriented products.
Maybe. Dude, it's possible. It's possible.
Yeah.
I don't know if we should, it'd be cool if we could see some sort of way to identify if like other makeup brands or lower quality makeup brands are selling more. You remember it's like when we talked about the strip clubs and
Yeah, the stripper
the
index.
stripper index, dude. I wonder if the stripper index is way down right now. We're getting close to the
Yeah, we
holidays.
got the stripper index. We got the lipstick index. What other ones do we got?
Dude, I don't know, dude. Yeah, we gotta like wrap this up in some sort of like portfolio, like a Pelosi type thing,
Yeah.
like one of them type things. Like, look, elves down, strippers down, extreme fear in the market. It's a sit on cash moment type thing. I don't know. We'll figure it out. This is it. We can figure this out. We will be the next Buffetts. And I will convert you to Coca Cola, and we'll be cheersing the cherry cokes every week.
We'll think about it. But in the meantime, don't forget to smash that subscribe button, guys, because we're dying here. We want to give you guys a 50K trade day account
Hmm.
free.
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 Think about it.
Free.
If you win this free account and you get a payout, you now have the infinite money loop. You literally are better at trading than Pelosi and
Yeah.
all the members of Congress combined. Think about it.
Let's make it happen,
Let's make it
guys.
happen.
I believe in you. I believe in you. We can do it.
That's it.
You can do it.
That's it. And we would kindly request weekly updates. Really,
Yeah.
kindly.
And, drop a comment. Let us know,
Yeah.
what you thought about this episode and all that jazz.
Hell yeah.
All right. Catch you guys on the next one.
See you, everybody. Thanks for watching.